One of the main problems we've identified for sellers in 2020 is how to be compelling in an environment where you're boxed into a small screen on an even smaller screen a lot of the time. And as of this moment in November 2020, it's only a small number of customers who report being willing to receive salespeople on site. For the most part, that's limited to industries where there's product to be physically installed, or things like healthcare, where materials have to be handled in person, and that don't obviously stop. So for the foreseeable future, we're trying to engage people online, not being able to rely on face-to-face interactions. And when we ask them how that's going, I suppose the best you could say is that it's going okay. 40-odd% of people tell us that it's effective or very effective. But that's the kind of number where you typically want it to be about 80-90%. And almost 20% of all the sales leaders we reached out to told us that it's actually quite ineffective. And so there's obviously a premium at how you present yourself and how you handle yourself online that goes beyond some of the technologies you use. And it's early days yet, but one of the things we found is when we looked at the differences between those people who rate themselves effective versus those who are less effective, is that success on virtual means having to lean in a little. Zoom, we find, lends itself a little bit to bad acting, candidly. For example, you literally need to lean in to show interests. But beyond that, what we find from people is that the most effective systematically ask more hard questions. They want to make sure that the prospect actually follows through on outlining what their business pain is. They're also far more likely to report sitting back and waiting for the answer. Video as an environment makes it uniquely easy to talk over somebody, especially if the connection isn't that great. In that setting, you really do have to wait a bit and wait for somebody else to answer the question you have. The other place where we see a big difference is in the number of powerful requests being made. The people who report the most effectiveness are not shy about asking for next steps, and always about setting an agenda. Virtual, more than even in person, needs to finish on an actionable step. You can't rely on sending the usual email after the meeting or simply calling up somebody. You probably need to spell out what the next steps are going to be. And all of this was really well summarized by one of the sellers we'd interviewed. Their line was that the current situation needs empathy, but up to a point. As they said, at this point in time, buyers have become risk averse. They're likely to punt on decision making, and they'll want to make sure that all their peers are involved so as to reduce the risk. At that point, a seller really doesn't do their buyer a service by standing back and letting them simply not take a decision. In that world, what you need is somebody to gently nudge you towards a decision. So clarify the decision-making criteria, listen to their answer, and then follow through with next steps that can action the decision.